afternoon, Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the May 8th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm Kevin Kassir, your president. First, as always, I'd like to thank our greeters today. Today was Marnie Hockenberg. So, Marnie, thank you. And a couple other quick ones. First of all, you know, our club is amazing, and we have just amazing members, and we get in the press pretty regularly. So I don't know if you saw this, but this is Greg Edwards' mug on the cover of the Business Record. It did a nice layout of his 25 years as the CEO of Catch Des Moines. So if you're not aware that it came out that he's retiring, you haven't mentioned it to him, I want to send him a note, congratulate him on the good press, and congratulations on his upcoming retirement. I also see Bill Wright here today. A couple weeks ago, might have been, you were pretty much in a major layout there for the Business Record on your award as the Commercial Real Estate Realtor of the Year. So I think I mentioned it before. But so there's some of the great people we have in our club. Also today is Stan Davis's birthday. If you know Stan, please reach out to him and wish him a happy day. And now it's my pleasure to introduce David Oman, who will lead us in a moment of inspiration, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the four-way test. And while David is coming up here, I want to make a pitch for others to please consider signing up to be the speaker for the moment of inspiration. We make it easy. You don't have to make it long. You know, you can read it. But we have a lot of folks that they can add to our moment of inspiration. So I want to encourage others to sign up and do that. And again, please welcome David Oman.
President Kevin, thank you very much. I say this to him every time I see him. Isn't he a great president for this country? He was waving around that business record. Some of us have been around this club for a few years. In the old days, if you got your picture in the paper or your name in the paper and you were acknowledged for that, you had to put $20 in the pot. So, Bill, $20 or hit the door. And we'll get Greg later for sure, right? Stand in line to do that. Let's take a look at some history relevant to today's program. Yesterday, the Roman Catholic cardinals met at the Vatican to begin selecting a new pope. The passing of Pope Francis reminds me of a story that's almost lost to history, and it surrounds the passing of the beloved Pope John Paul II in 2005. At that time, a global group of bishops was invited to Rome to say goodbye to the Pope, to His Holiness. One of them was then Des Moines Bishop Joseph Charon. Some of you may remember him. He was introduced to the Pope in line and approached the Pope slowly, and the Holy Father said 3 words: Iowa, farmers, refugees. That was the Pope's recall of his time in Iowa in October of 1979, when 300,000 people, for those of you who are too young and don't remember, 300,000 people at Living History Farms welcomed the Pope. It was an ecumenical time. That's half again more than the number of people who stand in Vatican Square. And it was times 1.5 the population of Des Moines at that time. The Pope was hosted by our governor, the late Robert Ray. Bill Jackson and I had the blessed opportunity to work for him. Our honorary member, Ken Quinn, couldn't make it today. He was on the staff. Bob Christensen helped get him elected in 1968. It was Governor Ray who, by action and moral leadership, connected refugees with Iowa and Iowans with them. backstory on that real quickly. When former President Ford asked 50 governors to help, on a short basis, help bring to our state or to our country men who had fought with the United States against the communists and whose families were facing genocide, one governor responded, and that was our Governor Bob Ray. In the next handful of years, 10,000 legal refugees. The governor always thought that adjective was important. These were legal refugees who were invited here and settled here. They're now in the third generation. Many are high school valedictorians. 2 were among the group of Des Moines high school seniors who we honored about a month ago, and 2 of whom spoke at this podium. They are descendants of the refugees who came to our state. So as we sit in this comfortable room with our freedom, our friends, and good food, please know this: it is only the growth of the Iowa Asian American population and the Hispanic Latino sector that has helped our state maintain modest growth. We will lose a Congress seat after the 2030 census. That's baked into the numbers right now. Nobody thinks about it, hasn't been reported, but we will lose a seat. It'll probably go to Utah. And were it not for just the Asian American population living here in 2020, we could have lost that seat in 2022. So our Asian Americans are additive, they're vital, and they're consequential in many ways, without a doubt. And with them, they make Iowa a better place. So this program we'll learn about in minutes is of critical importance to us all. Now let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the 4-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And circulate and say. Thanks, Ron. How are you?
Patty, how are you? Nice to see you.
Behind you, he's out front.
Hello, Mr. President.
What a beautiful sticker. What a beautiful. I'm happy that. Hey, old man. How you doing?
Yeah, because we wanted us to shake it. Everything.
Good.
A lot of things
All right, thank you, everybody. Next, we'll have an opportunity to meet our guests today. We have a few of them here, so when I call your name and introduce you, please stand if you can and remain standing, and then we'll recognize you all at once, okay? First up, we have Tanner Baldwin, Assistant Vice President, Commercial Banking Officer with Liberty National Bank, a guest of Brandon Bennett. We have Kent Sovereign, a former member of our club, a guest of Steve Beckley. We have a visiting Rotarian here, Wandana Naik visiting Rotarian from Flagler County, Florida, Rotary Club, so come a long ways. And we have two guests of our speaker. We have Lisa Ty with Edward Jones. She volunteered at Celebration for the last 8 years and is festival chair for the 2025 event. And we have Jay Cow, financial analyst with Target. She's volunteered at Celebration for the last 3 years and is the village director for the 2025 festival. So welcome everyone. Next we have our segment, Where in the World is Club number 27. For our guests, the Rotary Club of Des Moines is the 27th club in the world. 27th club in the world, over 36,000. So where in the world is club number 27 is our segment. So this is Carl Schilling with a reunion group photo of members and wives of the U.S. Navy Mobile Construction Battalion 53 that served two tours in Vietnam in 1968 and 1969. They gathered for a tour in front of the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Carl, that's a great story and a great trip. Thank you for your service as well. So, next segment is Did You Know? And I'm going to cover one of my favorite topics, food. But I'm going to tie it into our topic today. You know, food is a thing that brings us all together. It keeps that ethnicity alive of all of us, handing down from generation to generation. You know, I have that in my family. And so, big fan of food and love the various types of food. And I did some travels in my business days in Asia and a couple trips to Thailand. And I found that Thai food became one of my favorites, and I was so excited that there's more Thai restaurants, right, in Des Moines now than there ever has been. So here's a little bit about Thai food that you may or may not know. First of all, this is a Thai basil, which I'm a big fan of, those dishes. And what's the difference between Thai basil and your normal Mediterranean basil? Excuse me. So Thai basil has a little bit of a spicy flavor to it, aniseed licorice type, where the sweet basil might be more mild, peppery, and a little bit sweet. And you can tell the difference between the two, and I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but the stems are red in Thai basil versus green in your Mediterranean basil. Now a little bit about the food of Thailand. It looks to achieve a balance in a range of different flavors. So you have the combination of salty and sweet and sour and spicy, and they try to tie those flavors together, maybe not all of them, into a dish that creates great balance and full of flavor. So here is my question for the group. The first one is a layup. The second question is a three-pointer. First question. What do you think is the most famous Thai dish in the world?
Pad Thai.
Pad Thai. Okay. Now, the three-pointer. How old of a dish is Pad Thai? Was it from the 15th century, 16th century, 17th, 18th, 19th century? What do you think? Any guesses?
15.
15? No. 19? Believe it or not, it's the 19th century. It's not that old. And so here's the quick history, because it is one of my favorite dishes. In World War II, the prime minister there was encouraging the people of Thailand to eat more noodle dishes versus rice, because the rice was in short supply with World War II and they had some floods. So that started the movement to noodle dishes within Thailand. And it wasn't until 1960 that the dish that we know of today as Pad Thai really became common. So,
Kevin, isn't that the 20th century then?
All right, see, there you go. I should have said 1900s. Right, 20th century. Thank you, Belle. Perfect, I love that. So the shift, anyway, to pad thai and noodle dishes was very recent. So there you go, something that you possibly didn't know. And now, for our next segment of Rotarians on the Floor Laughing, we have our famous to us past president Skeet Wooten.
No pressure.
Thank you for that rousing endorsement. We had Doug Saltzgaber retire and then leave town. So good, I got a laugh. I wasn't even trying.
He paid me.
He paid you? How much?
No, I mean, you paid me to
Well, I
laugh.
paid you. Anyway, so and Doug's out of town for the next couple of weeks, so unfortunately you got me still. And we're going to do it, we're going to mix it up a little bit today. We're going to give you a multiple choice. We can talk about the English language, or we can talk about country and western songs. Really? Seriously? Come on. Okay, let's see a show of hands. Country and western songs?
Sure.
Okay. English language? Wow. That's too bad. It was funnier with country. Okay. So, next week you'll get country and western songs. Okay, for you lovers of the English language, there's a two-letter word that perhaps has more meanings than any other two-letter word, and that's up. It's easy to understand up, meaning toward the sky or at the top of a list. But when we wake up in the morning, we get up. At a meeting, why does a topic come up? Why do we speak up? And why are the politicians up for re-election? Why is up? You can laugh at any of these, it's okay. Or if you don't want to, that's fine. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, we call up our friends, we warm up the leftovers and clean up the kitchen. We lock up the house and some guys fix up stuff around the house. Others of us break it, but anyway. At other times, the little word has a special meaning. People stir up trouble, they line up for tickets, they work up an appetite, and they think up excuses. To be dressed is one thing, but to be dressed up is special. A drain must be opened up because it is stopped up. Okay, okay. We open up a store in the morning, but we close it up at night. We seem to be pretty mixed up about up. To be knowledgeable of the proper uses of up, look the word up in the dictionary. This was really not that funny.
It's entertaining.
It's good.
It's entertaining?
Yeah, it's entertaining.
Okay, all right. In a desk-sized dictionary, it takes up almost a quarter of a page. It can add up to about 30 different definitions. Okay, if you are up to it, you might try building up a list of the many ups that you can come up with. You know, I could go on, but I think I'll just shut up.
Now I will call up Mullet Schrupp to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, President Kevin, and thank you, David, for those words of inspiration. When I'd asked David to do that, I did remind him that I wasn't even born when they said refugees came over, so it was great to get a little bit of history lesson there, so thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Newhan. She started out her professional career at Principal, was there with them for 15 years, and has now been the executive director for Iowa Asian Alliance for over 10. I have known her for 7 years, actively participated at this festival, a leader at the festival, and you know, she has a quintessential immigrant story from where they started as a family and just growth of the Asian American population and the culture in the state of Iowa. So,
to President Kevin. Kent, I have to say hello, and then David, thank you for your words of inspiration. I was already emotional when we said hello, and then as you were talking and referring to Governor Ray, I got emotional again. That or it's menopause, I don't know. But either way, I'm gonna make this short and sweet, allow you to ask me questions, so I'll give you time to answer that. But really, I think my goal here today is to talk about a little bit about myself, so you can get to know me, and then as well, of course, the broader impact that the American Asian populations had in the great state of Iowa, and then specifically a little bit more about Iowa Asian Alliance and Celebration. What's your takeaway? How can you get involved if you choose so? Okay. And please keep this informal. So if I say something and it triggers a question, just raise your hand or interrupt me. Well, this is a perfect segue into David's comments, because this is meant just to be a high-level overview, right, of so many significant events that led to the fall of Saigon. And then, as you can see, after the fall of Saigon, many significant events there that really impacted here in the state of Iowa, and specifically to what David mentioned in terms of the late Governor Ray. I remember growing up, people would ask me, oh, and Molly, cut me off if I go over time. I remember growing up, people would ask me, why are you here in Iowa? How did you end up in Iowa? And why did you choose Des Moines, Iowa? Well, they chose us. My parents and family did not have that choice. And so we were very fortunate that Iowa chose us. And when I think about all the stories I hear, I was young enough that I honestly don't remember between my images and memories if that was real or it was just based on what I've heard or what my parents shared with me. And I remember one particular story my mother said. She was expecting at the time, there's 5 of us in terms of siblings, but she was expecting my baby sister at that time, carrying her, and she had just a bit of food that she was able to take on her backpack. And when you're surviving out in the open sea on a small boat, crammed in like sardines, your goal is just to survive the sun, the ocean, the lack of food and water. And I remember she just had a little bit of food because she bought for us, the infants and the kids, but there were so many people that were starving that she ended up having to share that. But we were still very lucky. We were lucky in the sense that we only had to survive the environment in terms of the elements, right, in the ocean and the lack of food and water. We went early enough because my father was associated with the U.S. military, so we were fortunate to get out early. So we didn't have to, on top of that, deal with kidnapping, rape, pirating that happened quickly after so when did we arrive? In 1979, April of 1979 was when we arrived at the Des Moines Municipal Airport or something at that time. It wasn't the Des Moines International Airport yet. But that photo right there, that's me on the very bottom, my mom holding my younger brother, and that was us, I believe, at Camp Dodge, was where they had all the refugees gathered at that time. And so, again, we were fortunate. We did not have to deal with the kidnap rape. I had many friends and family that I knew much later in life that lost loved ones to that and have harrowing, horrific stories of survival. But as you can see there in this photos, it's interesting. I always wonder if my age is correct. Because this was in 1983 when they did the story. We are not unique to many, many stories, but for some reason our family was selected to be featured at the Des Moines Register. But that's there with my other 2 siblings. And then I often think a lot about my mom and what she had to go through, when I went through my 20s and my 30s and realizing, wow, what my mom and my parents went through at such a young age. They kind of lost all of that, didn't have the chance to really live their life because it was always on survival mode. But here's us now. Well, that's us. And this is a few years ago. As you can see, American food did us all well. Yep, we're all a little bit plumper, way compared to this one. But that's the baby sister right there. And I will tell you guys, nutrition does matter. My younger sister was born here. She's a whole head taller than all of us. So nutrition really does matter. But we were very fortunate. And at that time, our sponsors were in Ottumwa, Iowa. So yes, they chose us. And we were lucky that the hearts and homes of all the churches, and under Governor Ray's leadership. And again, he met a lot of obstacles and challenges, but he never wavered from that commitment. So it was Ottumwa, Iowa, but I remember we had to end up moving to Des Moines because that was where DMAC and Mercy and many of the major employers, my dad worked there and retired there. So it was wonderful to do. My mom was also involved in there, but like many Asian immigrants and refugees, they are entrepreneurs and they open a business. And I'll talk a little bit that later when we talk about the impact of overall Asians. So just quick, I won't bore you with the numbers, but AAPI by the numbers, right? When you think of the broader Asian population, it's huge when it comes to businesses. Does anyone know the story of how did the Vietnamese come to dominate the nail salon business? As a Vietnamese myself, I will tell you, I remember in high school, my uncle came home from California and he said, "Nu, we gotta drop everything and we have to open a nail salon." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I am not going to do pedicures. I am going to college." "No, Nu, you don't understand. We gotta drop everything, we gotta open the nail salon business." And I'm like, "Okay, you go ahead." I regret that I did not listen to him. I should have done the heck out of those pedicures and manicures. So such a cool story, you guys. I learned that in California, so the first influx and wave of refugees was out in California. That was where the main base. And at that time, the story goes, is it the actress that did the Blackbirds? Anyone know that actress, that famous actress? What's that, Stephen, huh?
Tippi Hedren?
Yes, her. So she was involved and she was visiting all the refugees at the time, mostly Vietnamese from the boat people. And she's like, "What can I do to help these individuals to be self-sufficient, to be up and running? What can I do so they can be self-sustaining and earn a living?" And the story goes that someone commented on how beautiful her nails were. And she's like, "That's what I'll do. I will teach these individuals how to do nails. It doesn't require a huge language barrier in the sense of what they need to learn. It's a trade, it's an art." Yeah. So hence, that was one of the reasons why my uncle came running back from California to say, "You need to open a nail salon now." And at that time, Des Moines had maybe, I don't know, a few, not even a handful. And now it's everywhere, and it's such a lucrative business. But really cool story, and it is true. I tried to double check Google a couple times, and it's true. But there's also other business, like the Donut King. Did you all know Cambodians? Yeah, they're known as the Donut King. There's a whole story behind that, and there's a documentary on that as well. So some really cool things. My point here is, yes, whether it's Asian Americans or immigrants and refugees, what makes the world great, what makes Iowa great is just the diversity and the range of businesses that we bring to the table, and we continue. Post-COVID, it's been amazing to see the number of businesses that have popped up here in the state. From a population growth, we are the fastest growing racial group in the state and continue to be. From an education standpoint, yes, that generalization and stereotype is accurate. Growing up, I remember, man, if you did not get straight A's, you were a failure. And it's interesting to see me growing up with that with my parents, because we knew they sacrificed so much, so you better do everything you can to be successful. And independent of that, right, every parent's goals is to have your kids have a better life, the next generation to the next generation. Now, I might have failed a little. I think only one of my 3 kids have straight A's, but that's okay. That's okay. I've learned to let go a little bit on that. Also, income and economic spending power. I did not realize these fonts were so tiny. They look really big on my screen, you guys. I'm so sorry. But obviously, when it comes to income, economic spending power, entrepreneurship, again, when it comes to the broader AAPI population, they may have come here with degrees, but it didn't transfer as well, right? So a lot of it became businesses. It may become when you have language barriers that was hard to go into corporate or other jobs that require that. So entrepreneurship, grocery stores, food, right? President Kevin, absolutely, sharing that love of food, and that's what they knew. So that's what became the majority of the businesses, and still continues to be today. If you go to California or Texas or Atlanta, and New York, I mean, the Chinatown, the Korean towns are just amazing. Wouldn't it be awesome if this club can get an Asian town here in Iowa? That's like my lifelong dream goal before I die. So can someone help me make that happen? But that would be amazing, right? Because it does draw people. And I love it when people say, Iowa, how do you even have an Asian festival? Do you have enough Asians there? Yeah. Not too many, not too little, it's just right, like Woody Pop says. And we make a huge impact. Now I will tell you that some of the challenges though when it comes, because the data is all grouped under AAPI, there's a lot of disparities. When you talk about Indian, Japanese, right, Chinese, the larger, Vietnamese, and then your Filipino, and then you have your Southeast Asian, Cambodian, Hmong, Laos, Thai-dum, and even the recent influx of refugees and Burmese from Burma. The disparities, the gaps are huge when it comes to the challenges of limited proficiency in English. That prevents a lot of them from being successful, as well as the disparity when it comes to education and income. Even though those numbers look great for us as a community, there's some huge gaps. Any questions? Okay. Let's talk about Iowa Asian Alliance. Anyone here knows Kim Pong Logan? See, yeah, she gets around. Kim Pong Logan's amazing, but when she was at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, she saw a need amongst other community leaders. We're not a monolith, right? So it's a little bit more challenging when you talk about the AAPI communities. It's so different, like I mentioned, from Hmong, Laos, Cambodian to Chinese, Indian. Half the time people, when I would go present at schools, they're like, wait, the Indian, they're Asians? And even within our own communities, right, Malik? You guys don't get sometimes lumped into with the Asians. They get their own category because they're so big. But it's very complex. And I always say even to Lisa, I'm like, how can we expect anyone else when half the time I don't even get, the races and the communities, the ethnic communities correct? It's difficult, it's challenging. So IA really is that one-stop shop. It was formed out of that critical need, whether you're an individual, a business, a corporation, or just wanting to connect personally, professionally, whatever that may be. So instead of contacting 13 different communities, hey, Iowa Asian Alliance, I'm wanting to connect with AAPI, help me. And so we kind of serve as that connector. Think of us as that connector. And since 2002, we've really been focusing on the cultural and community, a lot of what I talked about in celebration. And civic engagement's another one. Again, just making sure, we are stereotyped as the silent community, right? Not as visible. That also rings true with that stereotype and the gaps that we talk about. So whatever we can do to ensure that our voice is out there and heard and represented as well. How am I doing on time? Okay. So AAPI Connector, we are the connectors. So if you remember anything besides my story, of course, walk away and just remember Iowa Asian Alliance. If you need to connect with the broader community, who can you contact? I will tell you, we get calls all over the states. There was an instance where I remember someone called me, they were frantic. They're like, we don't know who else to call. We looked online, we found you guys. We are needing an interpreter for Marshallese family that needs critical health. We can't find anybody. We don't even know where to start. And I'm like, Marshallese? That was my first time here. Always going to my mind, like, Marshall's, the clothing store, like, what are you talking about? And it was the Marshall Islands. And so I quickly had to do some research. I ended up finding in Ottawa, I contacted the school. So if there's an influx of any groups or a community, the school is a good place to start because those kids have to go to school. So I ended up finding a contact and found an interpreter at the Ottawa school. They then drove all the way up to, was it Newton, Iowa, to interpret for a very critical need. So while we may not have the resources in terms of the direct connections, we know enough about the communities in the states and have enough of the say to help bridge that gap. We also get calls from all over the states when it comes to interpretation, or someone say, hey, I have to relocate to Des Moines, Iowa for a job. I don't even know where to start. I don't know anyone. I would like to connect with the broader community when it comes to the Asians. Again, so we can really help navigate that for them and make those connections. The one thing I want to say about Iowa Asian Alliance, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. We are a very small organization, so outside of myself, as you met earlier with Lisa and Jade and Malik and Brandon over there, it's all run and operated by volunteers. By the time it's said and done, I probably work with at least 400 volunteers to make the festival happen. And we operate very lean. It's just me, myself, and I with my laptop at home, and then the networking and the volunteers are the true power behind this organization and event. There's multiple events we have. There's Celebration, which I'll talk a little bit like. There's the Pho King Cook-Off. There's the education outreach, so if there's ever an interest, are you the only one who got that one? There's civic education and engagement as well. So this is something we do all year round from the education standpoint. So if anyone's sitting in the seat today have any interest, whether you're connected, whether you have extended family, or you just want to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll take time, talent, whatever you're willing and able to give. Paul Hutton once said to me, when it comes to serving is give, or get off. So I've learned that. So yes, anytime, talent, and treasure, or you have the right connections, please help us make that happen. Celebration. So this year, fittingly so, is the 50-year anniversary of the Southeast Asian Refugee Resettlement. And the theme is celebration in full bloom. And what's significant about this theme is it's not only recognizing, hey, it's a huge milestone when it comes to the resettlement of the refugees, but at the same time, our broader AAPI, the Japanese, the Korean, the Indian, etc., they came here as immigrants and not refugees. So the celebration flu is just saying to be more inclusive of all of our communities and how we've come full circle, and how much it's not just taking our history and the resilience and the roots and being grounded by that, but at the same time celebrating and knowing how far we've come as a community and how integrated. We don't want to be isolated. We want to be integrated into the broader community here with the Great Des Moines. And we want you all to come and be part of that and share that with us. That is happening May 23rd and 24th. Again, we've been doing this for 22 years, and we hope to continue to grow it. We're very proud of what we built. What I think makes Iowa Asian Alliance very successful is that when it comes to these organizations, if you think of the larger cities and what makes Iowa unique, when you think of the larger cities, like I mentioned earlier, it tends to be silo and segregated, right? You have your Vietnamese in one, your Hmong in another, and Korean, etc. Iowa is the only state where we all play in the sandbox together, and we all come together to do something that each of us as communities cannot do alone. It does take all of us to be united to put on an event at this scale. So when we have performers and businesses come to Celebration, they are wowed by how diverse the Asian population itself within this community and how much there is a crossover versus everyone being segregated. And I love that we made this event in the last 10 years at Western Gateway Park on Memorial Weekend. When we first decided to do this, everyone was like, oh my gosh, there's no way. It's a holiday weekend, everybody leaves, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I want to give people a reason to come to Des Moines. I want to give people a reason to stay in Des Moines. So let's do something fantastic that inspires them to stay. I wanna be a part of this event. Last year we had a couple from Colorado, and I happened to run into them, and I said, oh, you're here visiting family, that's wonderful. Are you enjoying the event? Oh no, we just found our event online. We traveled to experience festival. I'm like, really? And they're like, yes, and we love it, we'll be back. So that's so cool. And you guys, we get vendors from Chicago, from Nebraska, Minnesota, etc. I'm like, it's worth it for you to drive your food truck and drive here and be a part? They're like, absolutely. So again, the impact is great. We'll continue to do that, and we hope you all continue to be a part of our journey. Thank you so much for having me.
Delatte having lunch with the other 10 members of our team, and one of the firefighters from Des Moines had a Des Moines, Iowa shirt on. And a fella came over to him with very much intent to say, "Are you from Iowa? Are you from Des Moines?" And they were a family from Mason City whose were bringing their third generation children, grandchildren, back to Delatte to show where their family roots are. Small world. Mason City here, and I think one of the daughters has a nail salon. But I just wanted to share that with you, how much that's a part of our lives. Thank you, David, for that great introduction. How much the Vietnamese culture, the Asian culture, the Pacific Island culture has been important in our lives here in Iowa, and I thank you for being. But I wanted to share that small world moment.
It is.
Yeah.
And just Iowa in general, I think when you find a fellow Iowa, no matter where you're traveling, everyone just gets super excited. And even more so if it's like cyclone to cyclone. You know, Kent, your thought I didn't share, but it was actually, you guys, 40 years later, I took my first trip home last June to Vietnam. I was fortunate to go with both my parents. They're divorced, but you know, they still hang out together. So I went home with my parents for the first time. I took my oldest son, wanted him to experience it, and my nephew. And we went to Saigon, well, Ho Chi Minh now, and my father's side of the family's still there. My parents actually love it. My mom's there now, and I'm like, "Mom, you have 3 months. You must leave on June 9th, or I don't know what's gonna happen," but my parents will go and stay there for as long as they can. But 40 years, okay, I don't remember anything. I was way too young. But 40 years, I came back last June to visit with my parents, and my father took me and my family with his older sister to visit the grave of my grandmother and grandfather. And that was hard. And my aunt was telling me, because I'm like, I never really heard the stories from my parents. They just really didn't talk a lot about it. And I said, "Well, what happened?" And my aunt said that my grandfather, who owned a pharmacy at the time, and that's why one of the reasons I think we were able to leave early, because my grandfather was wealthy, he had a pharmacy, and he was able to provide the gold necessary to smuggle us out. But he was stricken with grief. So when the whole family left, it was hard to get news back, letters, snail mail, whatever you want to call it. Word did not get back quickly enough. And someone had falsely said that everyone perished at sea. There's no way the families can survive on those small fishing boats. There's pirating, there's rape and kidnapping, and having those little kids, and okay, I get emotional. So there's no way they survived. And so my grandfather was so grief-stricken that I think he died. Darn it, I said I would not cry. This is menopause. Anyway, so it was really emotional, and I never had a chance to see them or say anything. And anyway, well, thanks, Ken. I'm gonna blame you for this one. But yeah, I was glad I was going to go home. And the trips now, there's still, when you talk about the South and the North Vietnamese, there's still that, if those that served in the war may still refuse to go back. But I know Tay Vinh is another one that is a huge leader. He recently went back to visit, and he had to let a lot go in order to accept the differences and stuff. But it's a beautiful country, and it's beautiful, and it's worth visiting, and it's great. And but yeah, so please go visit. It's absolutely beautiful. You had a question, sir.
Yeah, and I know immigrants and refugees all have different stories, but
Correct.
Are there any key takeaways that you hear from your group in terms of how Iowa can be more welcoming to that population?
I think when we talk about the welcoming, right, the difference now versus what it was with Governor Ray, it's just the overall tone. We all know it derives from leadership and setting that precedent and creating that understanding environment. It's very different now from the resettlement focus. I think, honestly, for me, it's just the openness, the interaction, and showing up. You know, when we do this event, what I love is it's very diverse. There's not only Asians there, right? We have Asians, Hispanics, whites, Latinos, across the board, and that's what I love about it. So as long as you continue to be part of it, engage and show up, that's really the action, right? It speaks louder than words versus just saying it. You're simply a part of it. So thank you. That's, sir?
Do you happen to know whether Lannon Bach is going to also have another run for the 3rd Congressional District?
Okay, you're asking me political questions? I have no clue when it comes to anybody and everybody. Does anyone know the answer to his question?
One more question. One more question.
Sorry, in the back.
Didn't Governor Ray have a grandson who married someone who came over?
Yes, yes, they had a wonderful documentary story, and it's floating out there on YouTube, I'm sure. And she's tied up, so it's very fitting, as he was the only governor that answered their plea. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Lou, thank you for sharing your lunch with us today and your interesting presentation and all you do for our community, sharing all the Asian cultures with us. So we greatly appreciate what you do every day. Next meetings, May 15th, we have the president of the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation. On May 22nd, the CEO of Lutheran Services of Iowa. And on May 29th, the leader of Count the Kicks will be here. And then next for morning fuels, first we wanted to highlight, go back a second. Yep, there you go. Last Tuesday, I think it was.
29th of April.
Yeah, 29th of April, we highlighted Helen Miller. And we had nearly 20 of us there. And so this is the environment. If you haven't been there, this is the environment. Hope to see you there, because the upcoming Morning Fuel is coming up next Tuesday with Dr. Doug Dorn as our keynote member, and we'll learn about his career and learn from him on his experiences. That's 9 to 10 on May 13th on Tuesday. The fellowship is free, but the coffee is on you. Anyone be sure to mention that. Also, please put on your calendar, our June fuel meeting is June 10th, and we will highlight Claudia Schabel as our member. So you come for 1 hour of your day, better connect with Rotarians, learn from another Rotarian. It's a great opportunity to build those relationships. Yes, Dick. Bring on the interruptions. I too welcome interruptions. Not Bill Wright, but I do.
We have a new Pope, Pope Leo from Chicago.
From the United States. There you go. Up-to-date news here at the Rotary Club. So anyway, our 3 pillars, as we said before: building relationships, building membership, and impacting our community. So think about those relationships. Come to a morning fuel, reach out to someone for a cup of coffee, and just get to know them a little bit better. That's the way you can contribute to that pillar. Thank you again, New, all of our guests. Thank you. We are adjourned.